Hi everyone, the purpose of this video is to demonstrate the capabilities of the Synology Diskstation DS1812 Plus NAS server. This is an 8-bay NAS server with a lot of features which is suitable for home use or small to medium businesses. What's really interesting is the RAID format support. It does Synology Hybrid RAID, which is RAID 6, but allows you to use various different hard drive sizes without losing any of the disk space. Basic disk mode, just a bunch of disks, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6 plus hot spare, RAID 5 plus hot spare, RAID 6, which is double parity, and RAID 10. You can also do RAID migrations without losing data, which is fantastic. You also can do volume expansion by adding in more hard drives at a later stage. There's a lot of features on this little device. Makes it a very worthwhile investment. Okay, let's head over to the actual console. Right, this is it. This is me logged into the Synology Diskstation. It is already configured. Unfortunately, I can't do a from scratch configuration, but the configuration is fairly straightforward. This is actually a production NAS server, so I can't delete anything and start from scratch. But I assure you it's very straightforward. It's all wizard driven. Okay, it actually looks like Linux. I think he uses ActiveX, I'm not entirely sure, but it works very well and it's very fluid. You've got your show desktop at the corner there. You've got your menu, start menu equivalent. You've got some notifications at the top, and you've got this widget here. You've got a desktop background that can be customized, and you can create shortcuts. Just quickly say these all can be changed, moved around, and so on. Let's start with the system information. This shows you your serial number, your RAM, uptime, any UPSs that you have connected. Network shows you any DHCP obtained or statically applied IP addresses. Storage shows you your volumes on your hard drives and the state. Service shows you what you have currently configured. As you can see, I've only got 2 services running. These are the incoming connections. Here you can define speed limits, or rather you can see what speed limits you have set, if you have set them. Let's go into, I'm going to start off with the storage manager. Probably not the first place you would go. As you can see, I've already created my volumes, so if I go into the disk group to show you what I have 5 2TB hard drives that have been split into volume 1 and volume 2. Now the actual 5 hard drives have been put in a RAID 6 array, which is double data parity. So the drives are 2 terabytes, so total capacity is 10 terabytes ish. But as you can see, I lose about 4 terabytes for the parity, but it gives you that double disk protection. I've got the 2 volumes on there. The option to create any more is not there unless you put more disks in. If I go back to volume, you can see they all exist. And that's the RAID 6 volume. If you go to HD management, this is quite useful. Shows you your drive temperatures. This all looks good. You can do a smart test. Cache management is just enable write cache. You probably want that on for performance. You can run a smart test. I've never run one. I don't think I need to. Smart info is very handy. You select the disk and you can view all this extended smart data. If there were any relocated set account, I would begin to worry. Disk info shows you your hard drive serial number. And then if you go to Iscuzzy LUN, this is the fancy stuff. If you got a little VMware testing environment, you can actually create Iscuzzy LUNs and present them to your ESX servers. Here, if I click on create, you see I only have one option. The reason for this is because I've already created the volumes, and I don't have any free hard drives as a result of that. If I did have free hard drives, I could actually create block level Iscuzzy LUNs, which is fantastic if you want to do it with VMware testing. I'm just going to click next, so you can create a new LUN in this volume if you want. Vim provisioning, so it doesn't utilize the disk space that you allocate it. Specify the disk size, and you can create a new Iscuzzy target or map to an existing Iscuzzy target. I'm not going to finish this because I don't need an Iscuzzy LUN. Here you would define your Iscuzzy target. As you can see, fairly standard stuff. You can have chat authentication if you wish. For those of you that are using OpenFiler, this is an alternative. Obviously OpenFiler is free, this is quite expensive, but if you've got it, then this makes a fantastic piece of kit for VMware testing because of the performance. Synology say you can get something like 200 megabytes a second in an RAID 5 array, so it's quite fast. Right, next I'm going to show you the control panel, which would make more sense actually if I start from there. Okay, let's start at the top. File, sharing and privileges. If I click on that, you can enable Windows file services, so this will be your standard Samba share. Mine is actually joined to the domain. I'll go into that later. Mac file services, if you turn this on, you can actually configure Apple Talk Zone if you want to. I've got it. The reason why I have the Mac file services is we use Time Machine, which is quite handy for the Time Machine backup. You can even do NFS if you've got Unix machines or Linux machines that you want to mount to a disk partition on this Synology. If I click on home, let's move over to FTP. You can enable your FTP, configure it. It's all fairly basic stuff. Obviously you would have to do your port forwarding and so on your firewall. This is a HTTP. Oh no, it's not. I actually even don't know what this is. Alright, enable web lab to allow users to edit and manage files on Diskstation remotely. Okay, it's some HTTPS or HTTP access to go into the Synology from a remote location. I don't think I have a use for it, so let's leave that there for now. Okay, users is where you define local users. This user here, Time Machine, is used for Time Machine backups. So if you're using an Apple Mac and you want to configure Time Machine, you would create this user. It will be member of this group, and you give it access to your share. Give it read-write access. No need to specify a quota unless you really want to. Speed limit if you wish to specify a speed limit. Okay. Let's go back. You can specify home directories for users. If you're authenticating to the Synology using local users, you can specify home directories. But this Synology is joined to the Windows domain, so we're actually using domain authentication, which is quite handy. Alright, if I go into groups, if I open up this Time Machine group, there's actually not much you need to do in here in order to get Time Machine working. It's just a group there to make it easy to manage users that can access the Time Machine share on the Synology. Right, shared folders is where you create shared folders. Let's have a look at the Time Machine one. As you can see, just give it a name. You choose where you want, what volume you want it on. You can create a recycle bin if you wish. You have various options. You can turn on Windows ACL. You can enable file indexing. So this makes it quick to search files from within FileStation. If I go into a different type of share, so this is a Windows share. I've got recycle bin turned on onto it. As you can see, I've got Windows ACL turned on, so I'm actually using NTFS permissions, which are actually saved in the metadata. You will see that later. Okay, so if you go to privileges setup for this share, I'm not using anything local because this is a member of a Windows domain. If I click on domain group, you can actually give access to your domain users via this console here. So, as you can see, I actually haven't specified anything because there's actually another way of doing it, giving access. There's a application called FileStation here, which you can see on the desktop, which I actually use to give the privileges, which can be also given from here. I prefer the FileStation method. So there's actually nothing that's been defined here. So I'm just going to come out of this, and then let's go and have a look at some of the options. You can enter your recycle bins. If I go back, so that was the group. Rather the shared folders? Yes, it was shared folders. Right, let's have a look at directory services. Here, as you can see, you can join it to a Windows domain, which I have done. Domain options, synchronize NTP. I have a separate NTP server, so I point it to that. You can see that later. You can't do LDAP if it's already joined to the domain. This just shows you all your domain users and domain groups. Let's go back home. Right, next level, network services, web services. Enable WebStation to create a website, so you can create virtual hosts and upload web pages. Create personal websites. You can have a MySQL database. You just specify a volume. I think once you've turned these on, you can enabled it, you can configure your PHP settings. You can modify the HTTP port settings and so on. Right. Dynamic DNS. This is on our internal domain, so there's actually no need for me to use a dynamic DNS service. So I'll have a DNS server. That might be useful for you. Although if you're using a firewall like a Netgear router, I think a lot of these firewalls have dynamic DNS built in. Quick Connect allows the following applications to connect to your Diskstation via the internet without covering port forwarding rules on your router. Select the application that will use Quick Connect services. I'm not even sure why I would want to really use this without using the rules of my firewall, just to be on the safe side. This can act as a router. Let's see what this does. Well, I'm not exactly sure what you have to do to get this working. Let's go back. Firewall. I'm actually using LACP. The 2 gigabit network interfaces on here are actually bonded together. I'll show that later how I did that. It has some sort of firewall on it. I don't want to click on create and break the connection, not while I'm connected to it. Auto block lets you block IPs, failed login attempts and so on, standard stuff. Terminal allows you to enable SSH and telnet service. SNMP lets you send traps to your SNMP server. Okay, system. Here you have your network service settings, your host name, your static IP, your default gateway. You can configure a proxy server if you have one. Use proxy authentication, as I have done. Here is the network interface, which I've bonded to create the link aggregation. I've connected to a Cisco switch. It was fairly harmless to configure. I'm using VLAN tagging. I'm tagging VLAN ID 10, as you can see. If I click on that, I'm actually using the proper IEEE 802.3AD. As you can see, the two physical devices are bonded. What link aggregation offers you is not really double the bandwidth. If a single gigabit computer is connected, it will have a maximum throughput of gigabit if it can do that. If I have two computers connected to your Synology, then there's a potential that it will use both network interfaces and actually maximize the bonded capacity of 2 gigabit. The Synology does have an option to add 10 gigabit cards if you really need it. Okay. Enable tunnel to allow IPv6 protocol to tunnel over existing IPv4 network structure. I don't think I have seen anyone anywhere that I know of using IP6 yet. Right, DSM settings. Here you can customize your logo and so on. Wallpaper. Change your ports if you want to. Force it to go to HTTPS, which I have done, and you can even specify your own certificate if you want to. You can have a timeout, and you can probably publish it to the outside world by the looks of it. I'm sure you can do that via your router anyway. Okay, regional options. Don't really need to explain it. You can actually use this as an NTP server. You obviously need to make sure it can communicate out with the outside world to get the correct time if it's going to act as an NTP server. Notification. You can configure it to email you of information level emails, or you can actually go into quite granular levels as to what you want it to email on. As you can see, I've got it to email me on just about anything that happens on the Synology. Very handy if you've got a disk about to fail. You can actually do SMS if you have some sort of SMS server running. You can connect to that and send. You've got the push service as well. Right. So that's a notification. Power. Now this is quite handy. I've turned on Wake on LAN in case I ever do need to remotely turn it on, but then again I never actually turn it off. As you can see, it's got 44 days uptime. Fan speed mode, it's actually quite quiet, so I prefer to put it in cool mode. It's still quiet. You can make it beep if there's something wrong. It's got UPS mode, which is quite handy. As you can see, I've got it connected to this APC Smart UPS 750. There's a list on the Synology website that you should check before you buy UPS. Schedule. I don't even know what this is. Let me have a look. Ah yes, you can do schedule startup and shutdowns. This is a business environment. I'm not going to do that. Let's have a look at HDD hibernation. I really don't fancy doing this. I'm using enterprise grade hard drives. They're Western Digital RE4 hard drives, which I think have a 5-year guarantee. Are designed to run 24/7 in a demanding environment. And I've got the protection of the 2 disk parity, and I've actually got cold spare as well. which basically means it's still sealed in the bag somewhere. Okay, so let's go back and have a look at external devices. Now this is the cool feature. You can actually plug in like USB sticks, USB hard drives, and they appear in here. You can copy files to and fro, and it's quite fast. I haven't got anything plugged in here for me to show you, unfortunately, but it just appears as a drive, and you can browse to it using the standard file station. Okay, I'm not going to click on restore defaults for obvious reasons. Let's go into DSM update. This can do a schedule check to see if any version of DSM is available, and looks like there is. Now I'm not going to be brave and actually do a live update while I'm doing this video. It might go horribly wrong and all the data gets lost. Don't want to do that. I'd rather know what these revisions are before I do a manual update. Okay, application privileges. You can grant privileges to your users. For example, let's go back in here. So Time Machine is a local user. You can give access to your FTP, file station, so on. You can do the same thing for your domain. By the looks of it, all your domain users, if you join to the domain, get given access to those applications that you already have running. Okay, let's go back up. Application portal. I've only got a file station running. There's a few things you can customize. A lot of these settings I've not had to change. It just works. Right, Syslog. This is quite handy for me because I have a Syslog server. I send quite a lot of information to it. You can go into log filters. You can specify what level you want to send. So I'm sending everything: information, warning, and error. On a lot of the events, useful for troubleshooting or if you have a fault or want to know when something's about to go down. Right, VPN. This lets you create these two types of VPN connections. I'm not going to run through it because I actually have no use for it. Media indexing services. You can actually index pictures, videos, and so on. So if you're hosting a website, I think it comes into effect there. Or if you're searching locally, there is a search function built in to this interface. Some options here. You can specify your index folders and the 3 different file types. Right, network backup. If you enable network backup, this sets your Diskstation as the destination server for shared folder sync, time backup, LUN backup. So if there's another Synology Diskstation on your network, this can be a repository for the other Synology to back up to. Okay. Enable this service to make your Diskstation a server that allows shared folder sync connection. There's a thing where you can do from another Synology, or even from this Synology to another Synology, shared folder sync, which I'll show you later. Right, time backup. Enable this option to allow another Synology server to perform remote time backup. So basically the different options for the backups. Okay, let's go somewhere else. Let's have a look at file station now. So you will get this security warning come up, which is part of the web browser ActiveX control. If you say yes, what that does is it maps all your local hard drives and makes it quite easy to transfer files between the Synology and your computer via this web interface. Alright, as you can see, I've created two shares. It's marketing and time machine backup. The time machine backup, as I've explained before, is used to back up Apple Macintosh computers using the time machine feature, which I'll show later. This, however, is a Samba file share with the NTFS metadata configured on it. You may remember me earlier saying I did not configure the NTFS permissions via the what was it, shared folder I think I was in. I prefer to do it using the file station. You can actually right click on this, click on properties. It shows you where it is. As you can see, I've allowed these domain groups, various different types of permissions. You can create a new group, be a domain user, a local user. You can set the permissions, apply it to whatever level you need it to. You can do custom permissions if you really wanted to. Okay, if I go into advanced options, you've got your permission inspector, which is similar to the NTFS ACL checking option that you get in the security settings. So you specify user and check to see what permissions they got. Let's have a look at advanced privileges. You can change these options if you really want to. Right, let's have a look at something else. You can let's do a create folder, create new shared folder. Okay, so we can call it test, give it a description. You can enable a recycle bin or not. If you hide it in the network places, it means on a Windows machine it does not appear as an auto-discovered device under my network places. That could be handy actually. You can encrypt it should you wish to do that. You can only turn the encryption on when you create a new folder. You can't do it afterwards. Encryption does actually affect the performance. Here you can turn on your Windows ACL and enable file indexing. So I'm not going to create it because it's quite a basic feature. I'm going to close that. As you can see, clicking on that option actually opened up the other menu. Right, so you can actually then click on individual folders and then set permissions. I think you can. Let's have a look. I think you have to do it like this. There you go, properties. So you can set permissions and override it. So it's inheriting at the moment. Okay, if you have a look, click on that and then click on tools. You can see who's connected. You can... I'm going to go back into properties because I couldn't see the place where I enabled the recycle bin, which is strange because I know this has a recycle bin turned on. Well, I guess you get to turn on the recycle bin in the first place and can't turn it off afterwards, which is a bit odd. Oh well. But the recycle bin is quite handy actually. If a network user who has this drive mapped, this marketing share, if they delete files, it actually retains the structure when they delete files. This has actually been emptied out, so I couldn't show you. So all these files that appear under here would be, if they were deleted, would appear under the recycle bin. Oh, I just realised I was clicking on the wrong place. Right, here we go. As you can see, these users have deleted some files and it retains the structure and it can be recovered, which is fantastic news for them. So that is the file station, which is very effective yet so simple. if you're using this on the Windows domain, it's fantastic for managing NTFS permissions, giving users certain access, and so on. Okay, as you can see, you can do file level operations on it. You can even add to archive, compress, and so on. Download it here. Okay, let's close down File Station. Let's go into Backup and Restore. Okay, here I'm actually backing up the main data share onto a Windows server. Now you can back up to a Synology server which uses rsync to copy only changes. It's a very effective way of copying files over without actually copying existing data across, only just the changes. But if you can't afford another Synology just to do your backups, what you can do is download a free version of a program called CW rsync. Install it on a Windows server. It's very easy to set up, and it supports rsync protocol. If I go into Get Info, you can see it's saying it's an rsync compatible server. It's a Windows server. It's got a schedule set up. It's connected successfully. I'm going to show you at the end of this video how you install or how you configure CW rsync. It's very easy to do. If I click on Edit, you can see how you can configure the rsync. Block level backup is the bit where it copies only changes. Enable metadata backup backs up your NTFS permissions and so on. You can choose what your source is. You can actually back up your configuration. So I'm backing up my Windows share, and I've scheduled it using a schedule plan daily. Okay, so if I click on Create, I can do a data backup task. Let's go through this wizard. You can do a local backup, so you can back up to an external hard disk or a system shared folder. Network backup, you can back up to another Synology server. This is the method I used because I don't have another Synology. It's a Windows 2008 server running the free version of CW rsync. Or you can even back up to the cloud. Might be a bit expensive. Let's do an rsync compatible. You've seen this before, you just fill it up. If you've got your rsync server configured properly, as soon as you put the username, password, IP, as soon as you click on the backup module, it pre-fills it. Okay, you can restore data. So I can restore from this task, and you can see I've got this restore point, and I can actually restore my files. I'm going to go back here. You can actually back up your LUN if you have one. You have the two options. Okay, you can back up your configuration locally. Now this is the shared folder sync. If I click on Create, click Next, this share. I understand if the selected destination contains folders that are known as this or okay. So you can specify another Synology server and you can actually sync your folders. Just another way of doing it. There seems to be quite a few ways of doing the same thing over and over again, or a slightly different way. Okay, but this rsync method for me works very well. So that's the backup and restore task. If I go into Package Center, if you click on Available, Wait for it to download. You can get third-party or Synology packages. There's various stuff available. You can browse them actually on the website and see what's available. So you can have your own DHCP server, your own LDAP server if you wish, audio station, some antivirus software. What's really interesting is the media server. Photo station is fantastic. If you've got a lot of photos and you want to put it in a nice presentable format, you can preview it on the website. There's quite a lot of stuff you can download. There's an iTunes server as well, and you got third-party packages as well. Some interesting ERP packages. I'm not sure about some things, but certain things you can download, and they're free of charge, some of them. As you can see, I don't have anything installed. Just the basic stuff on the Synology is enough for my purposes. I actually don't know what Easy Internet is. Let's have a look. The Synology Easy Internet Wizard will assist you in setting up remote internet access to Diskstation. Okay, I don't need to really go into that. Right, Resource Monitor is very cool. This will show you over time, real time, or historical if you turn that option on. CPU, memory, disk, I/O usage, and network utilization. You can monitor processes, and as you can see, I've turned my usage history on. I haven't been able to max out the disks yet. The computers connected to it are connecting over a gigabit network, so it goes at the maximum gigabit speed, which is fantastic. Okay, system logs shows you events that were happening, as you can see. Admin logging in, any active connections, time machine backups going on, any file transfers happening, and backup tasks that have run. You got your built-in help, and there's a quick start wizard which you can run through. I don't believe I actually ran through it ever, because I prefer to set things up manually. That is all there is to it, to the Synology. It's very straightforward to use. I'll just quickly show you this. You can see some events here. Clear all, options, set the system account password, quickly look at your volume usage, change your desktop. I'll show you what Pilot View does. If I open this up and open up the control panel, click on Pilot View, it does that. Just puts them side by side. I can click on that and bring it to focus. Okay, it's very easy to configure. I had no trouble with it. It's a fantastic bit of kit. It's expensive. The box itself, I think, was about £650–700. UPS was £150. Cisco switch was something like £200. And the hard drives were actually quite expensive, £160 per hard drive, because they were enterprise grade, and I got 6 of them. One of them is a cold spare, and they're in a RAID 6 array. At the end of this video, soon after this, after I've actually stopped talking now, you will see the rsync configuration on the Windows 2008 server, and how you can set it up to actually back up your data to your remote site. The initial backup using rsync is obviously slow, but after that it only copies over changes, which is fantastic if you've got a WAN link. Okay, I'll switch over to the rsync video configuration. Okay, this is the Windows 2008 server. It's actually a HP StorageWorks X1400 server with the same storage capacity as the Synology. Um, it allows me to remotely back up the Synology in case something ever goes wrong with the Synology. At least I have a copy of the data at a different site. With the help of rsync, I can maximize the speed of the file copy because it only copies over changes, which is fantastic. Normally if you have two Synologies, this protocol is built in and you can do that, but as I don't want to pay for another Synology, this server with this software it works a treat. Right, CWR Sync is free. If you Google it, you'll find it. This version I've got here, I've paid for, so it's a slightly newer version, and it comes with support. So I've got it running only here as a server, so I only installed the server installer. I also had to install an older version of COP SSH because the new version was crashing, but I think that was just me. The installation is very straightforward. It just prompts you for the username, password, and so on. And you just put it in and remember it. So if I minimize that, so once it's installed, the first thing you want to do is create your folder where the data is going to be. And if you go into the start menu, you find your folder for your installation, and it's actually a couple of steps in there. There seems to be some missing, but the only step that I had to do is 1 and 2. I'll show you. If you open this up, this opens up a configuration. I've modified it, as you can see. I specified a name, and this name appears in Synology under the backup option. It automatically picks this up because of the rsync protocol. It's announcing it. You specify your path as this weird thing here. You have to put this in, your drive letter, your folders, and so on. You can do read only if you wish, obviously for our purpose, so you need to make sure this is false. And you can do transfer logging for debugging. I also found I had to put these two options in. They already might be in your config. If they aren't, if you put it in, you won't have any errors. So that's all there is to it, to create your shared folder on the Synology. To appear on the Synology as an rsync compatible server. You can have multiple ones if you wish. You just specify a new path and a new name in square brackets. Okay, so that was option 1. If I actually run option step 2, you would just specify your directory and prepare it. I'm not sure exactly what it does, but I believe it sets some sort of permissions. I ran it anyway. Whether I needed to run it or not, I don't know. It did no harm. The other thing I want to show you is these service accounts that get created are, I think, added into the administrators, otherwise they don't work. So if they're not added in there, you should add them in. So it's also a member of users. The other thing to note is the services. One of them, the rsync server, I believe, is disabled by, or not started up automatically, and you have to start it up automatically. Otherwise you might be scratching your head why your rsync server isn't working. So one thing to remember is to start it up automatically. Those services that you saw earlier simply appear in here. It is actually possible to specify domain accounts. Okay, so that is all there is to it, to the rsync server. It's quite straightforward. I have a feeling if I go into the directory prep, I'm just going to actually specify a directory. I was thinking it gives you more options, but it doesn't. I think there's another option you have to do before you do the prep. Let me find it. There you go. There's some more options there. Let's actually go through this. Oh. Okay. Right, activate a user. Right, I missed some steps. Sorry about that. You need to select a user and give it an access. My user that I've given access to isn't here, and the reason for that is because I've already given access. I'm going to cancel this and let's go back in here. If I click on deactivate a user, there you go. I've created a user. Now this is a domain user that I've created, so this is on my Windows domain, which is in the same domain as the Synology. And when you activate this user using that option 1, it just gives this user permissions to write to your rsync folder. There's actually nothing to it when you set it up. So that's what activate user does. That was it. I didn't need to do any of that. So I did the activate the user, and then I ran the prep a directory for upload, and that was it. I don't think this actually took me very long to get working, so if I didn't have too much trouble getting this working, it shouldn't be too much trouble for you. Sorry I can't be any more clear, but I set this up about 1.5 months ago, and I just did it in one go and it worked. You just follow those prompts, 1, 2, 3, and off it goes. Okay, so that was my video on an overview on the Synology Diskstation. It's a fantastic product. I highly recommend it, and hopefully you've seen enough for you to like it and maybe buy it if it suits your needs. Thank you for watching.